Hi there, welcome to an exam technique session focusing for Edexcel students who are taking their Unit 3 Micro Economics paper. This is one of a series of videos looking at techniques for answering the final 16-mark question on the data response paper. 16 marker carries 8 KA marks and 8 evaluation marks. You should be looking to make 3 separate KA points, making good use of definitions, application of examples, perhaps using the extracts, good use of explanations, and an analysis diagram always goes down well in the 16 marker. And be looking to make 3 evaluation points, perhaps worth 3, 3 and 2, which applied ideas and explain what you're doing to support the arguments. The question normally says assess, but there have been occasions when the question has said, for example, to what extent. But it will always require you, the 16 marker always require you to do evaluation. And we strongly recommend you're using a suitable analysis diagram to help you along the way. Pick up those KA marks. Now, some questions in the Edexcel Unit 3 paper require you to make specific use of game theory, and that will be in the question. But keep in mind there might be an opportunity to do that even if it's not explicitly mentioned in the exam question itself. So let's look at a particular question. To what extent does the threat of competition affect a firm's behaviour? Use an industry of your choice, 16 marks. Okay, well, there are many industries we could take. I think the key thing is to have some good examples to go into the exam with. Plenty of resources out there to help you. Here's an example of one that's relevant, I think, the drinks industry. It's an oligopoly with some dominant brands in the UK, such as Coca-Cola and Britvic and Danone and others. Red Bull making ground. It's a market where there's a lot of price and non-price competition, and also where there are some emerging entrants into the market, particularly in the sports drinks industry and in the sort of health drinks sector. Now, the key to this question really is the STEM word, the threat of competition. If you've done a lot of revision of this paper, you'll know that the threat of competition is something we associate most regularly with contestable markets. So start off with a good definition of contestability. A highly contestable market requires a pool of new entrants who are willing and able to enter the market. Good examples, the app industry for smartphones, platform businesses in things like hotels and taxis, Airbnb and Uber, foreign firms coming into a domestic market. There must be critically no significant entry or exit costs, sunk costs that can't be recovered if you leave the industry. Now, if there are low barriers to entry and exit, this reduces the commercial risks of market entry. It makes the market more contestable. We assume there has to be equal access to available industry technologies and also potentially a high rate of customer churn. In other words, consumers are willing and able to switch their demand as their preferences change. The question talks about firms' behaviour, so you can mention any aspect of firm behaviour in your answer, but typically you'll be looking at pricing decisions, investment, output, how much they spend on marketing, and decisions such as how much to spend on research and development. You can certainly talk about oligopoly in this question. The behaviour of firms is affected by actual as well as perceived threat of competition, and crucially, of course, in an oligopoly you have interdependent decision making. And the behaviour of firms also depends not just on the market structure, but also on their objectives. That's really an evaluation point you can come back to at the end. Okay, so start off by building some analysis, and we're looking for 3 core KA points really. So how does the threat of competition affect a firm's behaviour? Well, one possibility is that if a firm thinks there's the genuine threat of a new firm coming in, they might engage in limit pricing. Now, limit pricing is not illegal. It's where a monopoly of any firm with market power might deliberately, purposely choose a low, aka limit price, with the aim of deterring entry into the market. So depending on the cost conditions of the established and the new firms, that might involve setting a price closer to average cost, or just normal profit are made. But without question, limit pricing is a movement away from profit maximisation. So in that sense, it represents a move towards satisficing rather than maximising behaviour. Evaluation at this point, well, of course, the extent to which limit pricing is needed depends on the scale of the unit cost differences between established and potential firms. We'll have a look at a diagram of that in a second. The new firm coming in might have substantially higher costs because they've probably not benefited from economies of scale in that industry, and therefore they may not be necessarily competing on price. So firms may have to think about their non-price competition, and again that will be a separate point in a moment. And the impact of this, the extent to which they have to use limit pricing, depends on the scale of and the depth of customer loyalty. It could be the case that you have strong brand loyalty, consumers value a product, repeat custom, and therefore the marketing cost for a new firm to come in is significantly higher as a result. So there's always scope for diagrams in these sort of questions. We like good analysis diagrams in Unit 3 Micro. This one on the left-hand side hints that Firm B, the potential rival, the potential entrant, has higher unit costs than Firm A, which has moved down their curve, down their long and average cost curve to achieve some scale economies. So at output level Q1, Firm B has much higher costs than Firm A. And so technically Firm A, of course, could find a price which could just undercut the lowest unit cost of Firm B. Another way you could show this is to use a standard monopoly diagram. So Q1 here is the standard profit maximizing price. Now that's unlikely to be the case if there's a genuine threat of competition. So there are various options we can see. One option could be this one, where the existing firm lowers the price to this point here where just normal profits are made, AC equals AR, and that would be output Q2. Now that would be clearly limit pricing, bringing down your price all the way down to your unit cost curve, in the hope that that will deter the entry of another firm. In reality, instead of being, I'm just going to go back to the profit maximizing price, that was the original price, but the threat of entry might cause you to reduce your price, and in reality you probably end up somewhere along here. This is one amongst many satisfying prices, Q3. Still making some profit, I'll just show that in for you. Still making some profit, but less than you would have done beforehand. But the threat of competition may cause firms to move away from their profit maximizing price. Okay? You could use a little bit of game theory, not asked for it in the question. So game theory, you could take two firms, an established firm, Firm A, and a potential rival coming into the market, Firm B. I'm going to assume that Firm A has significant cost advantages. And this little matrix table is showing the potential profit from different situations if Firm B comes into the market. So if they're both priced low in this market, A makes a low profit, but B makes a loss. A makes 2 million, B makes a loss of -2. And you can see here that the maximum profit that B can make is if they charge a high price and Firm A charges a high price. We end up here. But actually they could make a zero profit here, they could make a loss here. In other words, I'm assuming here that if Firm A charges a low price, if they have a cost advantage, that might be enough to guarantee a loss for Firm B. And if that threat is therefore credible, then Firm B may decide to stay out of the market. Just a little bit of use of game theory there. So we focused so far on how firms might behave if there's a threat of competition with regards to their pricing. But of course, there's lots of scope in this kind of question for talking about how businesses might use non-price competition if there's a threat of entry. So some good points you can make, and don't forget we're only looking for 3 KA points here. Firms might decide to ramp up, increase their marketing, their advertising spend to lock in consumers. Things like loyalty cards and special deals and upgrades and that kind of stuff. Really increase their marketing spend. They could engage in product proliferation, which is where you saturate the market with lots of very similar products. Just think Oreos and Oreo biscuits. There seems to be 1,000 types of Oreos at the moment. Same with Cadbury's. And increasingly, of course, the same with things like soft drinks. Lots of different varieties of soft drinks. The other options they could do on the non-price side, again, we're only looking really for 2 points here. The existing firm might increase their investment, create some spare capacity, which they could use to lower prices if new firms came in. They could fast forward and increase their research and development spending, perhaps to get ahead in patent races, because once you've got a patent, of course, that's a barrier to entry into the market for a length of time. There's the potential, particularly in oligopolistic markets, for some firms to decide that the threat of entry is so severe to their profitability that they're willing to take the risk to engage in anti-competitive behaviour. So just a few months ago, GSK was fined, I think, $45 million in a pay-for-delay case. This is where they were paying smaller drugs companies money not to release their own generic versions of a drug onto the market. Really good example of competition policy in action. And you can imagine a scenario where in an oligopoly, existing firms decide to collude to share the market and therefore make life tough for new entrants. So for the exam, you probably pick out 2 of those non-price competition aspects and evaluate them. What would be some of the key evaluation points generally you could apply to this question? Well, I would argue that the threat of entry depends on the scale of sunk costs. So if there are significant exit costs from coming into the market, then the market is less contestable, and therefore the threat of competition is less, and firms' behaviour, existing firms, will change as a result. Some firms, of course, in the market may use takeovers to remove a threat from the market. You might want to try and find some examples of recent takeovers to help there. And increasingly, businesses, given the threat of competition, particularly from sort of disruptive businesses that don't follow the same rules of the game, increasingly businesses are trying to control the supply chain of the industry. Google is a really good example of that, very highly vertically integrated business. And as we've seen, game theory can be used. So the threat of competition depends on how credible the threat is. It may be sufficiently, the pricing tactics may be sufficiently credible for new firms not to come into the market. And if they don't, whilst you might be sacrificing profits in the immediate period, you can make higher profits in the long run. Okay, so that's a 16 marker. We're looking for 3 KA points and 3 evaluation points. If there was the extract requirement, you'd be using the extracts, and crucially, a good analysis diagram to help you on your way. Thank you. See you soon.